Hey friends, it's me, Pastor Stephanie, and I am so pumped to be joining you here online for Kids Church Online with One Church TO. We are in a brand new month. We are in the month of August. And this month we are learning about wisdom. And what is wisdom? That's a great question. Here is how we're explaining it this month. Wisdom, finding out what you should do and doing it. Now, it's easy enough to know what we should do, but it's not always easy to do it. We know we should clean our room, but do we do it? Sometimes. We know that we should share with our little brother when there's only one piece of cake left. Do we do it? Sometimes. But what about those times when we don't actually know what we should do? That's tricky. When we don't know what the right thing to do is. Like for example, let's say you have two friends and they're your great friends, but they both decide to have their birthday on the exact same day. How are you supposed to go to two parties? And how are you supposed to pick? And will one person be mad at you if you don't pick their birthday? And will the other person be so happy and think that you like them more? And then you don't know what to do? And that's a hard decision. But we're gonna learn this month about wisdom and what it looks like and how we can learn about what we should do and then actually do it. So today we're gonna jump into our Bible story, but before we do that, we're going to worship. We worship to give thanks to God. Worship looks different depending on who you are. Here, we sing and we dance. But if you're not a singer and you're not a dancer, that's okay. Read the lyrics of the song below and just use those lyrics as a prayer, asking God to come into your heart and say, Lord, I want to thank you for all of the things that you've done in my life. So let's jump into worship. I'll see you when we get back.
So many questions, there's so much to learn that I don't know. I don't have a direction, but God, I know you show me where to go. You help me to see the best I can be. Now there's no stopping me. I wanna go further, I wanna go faster. God, your wisdom is all that I'm after. I wanna dig deeper, can't wait any longer. God, I know that you're making me stronger. Further, faster. I wanna go further. I wanna go further, faster. I've got so many questions. There's so much to learn that I don't know. I don't have a direction, but God, I know you show me where to go. You help me to see the best I can be. Now there's no stopping me. I wanna go further, I wanna go faster. God, your wisdom is all that I'm after. I wanna dig deeper, can't wait any longer. God, I know that you're making me stronger. Further, faster. I wanna go further. I wanna go further, faster. Your way is the good life. Won't you show me? Won't you show me? Lead me to do what's right. Won't you show me? Won't you show me? Your way is the good life. Won't you show me? Won't you show me? Lead me to do what's right. Won't you show me? I wanna go further. I wanna go faster. God, your wisdom is all that I'm after. I wanna dig deeper. Can't wait any longer. God, I know that you're making me stronger. I wanna go further. I wanna go faster. God, your wisdom is all that I'm after. I wanna dig deeper. Can't wait any longer. God, I know that you're making me stronger. Further, faster. I wanna go further. I wanna go further, faster.
Awesome, friends. That song is such an important reminder to remind us that we can have wisdom, we can lean in, and we can ask God to give us wisdom. Speaking of that reminds me of our memory verse. Let's take a look at it together. It says this: "If any of you need wisdom, you should ask God for it. He will give it to you. God gives freely to everyone and does not find fault." James chapter 1, verse 5. Friends, this is a powerful memory verse. It's basically saying if we want wisdom, we can ask God and God will give it to us. But God isn't like our family and our friends. He's not right there in front of us. We can't say, "God, what should I do?" And God's gonna say, "Very glad you asked, Stephanie. Here's what you should do." It doesn't happen that way. It really rarely happens that way. But God has people in our lives to help us know what to do. And He also gives us that feeling inside. Sometimes when I'm about to do something wrong, I get a feeling like, this is not the right plan. And that feeling is from God. That's the Holy Spirit inside of us, helping us make the right decisions. Let's take a look at our Bible story and see what they have to say about wisdom. I'll see you when we get back.
Check. Wait, where's the food color? Oh, hey, welcome to Story Lab. This week we're taking a look at the story of someone who wanted to dig a little deeper. Aha! Food coloring. Whew. Food coloring and Story Lab are like PB&J. Hey, I'm Carter, and that's it. Okay, then I guess it's my job to let you know that all this month we're talking about ways that we can grow in wisdom, just like Jesus did.
And I'm Zeke.
Little late, superhero.
What? You said we're taking a deep dive into the ocean today, so I'm ready.
I meant deep dive into knowledge about the ocean, not actual water.
Oh, so I don't need a snorkel?
We're only using this much water.
Well, let's make it.
Today, we're exploring the ocean layers on land.
We'll use our imagination and some of these supplies.
For this activity, we will need 5 jars of water, sea salt, food coloring, scrap construction paper, and a syringe with a tube, or a funnel in a large straw will do.
Is this for breathing underwater?
First things first. Step 1, add salt. This first jar will get no salt, the next will get 2 spoonfuls, then 4, then 7, then 9. And 4. Now we move on to the next. And 7. All right, and the last one. And 9. Oh, excuse me, Zeke.
Hey, the ocean is saltwater, right?
Yep, but we're also adding salt to increase the density of the water. Density just means how tightly the molecules are packed together. Since the different layers have different densities, they'll stay separate. Which brings us to step 2, coloring our layers. We'll put the tiniest bit of sky blue in the first jar, then blue-green 1 drop, then navy blue 1 drop, then purple 2 drops, then black 4 drops.
So I'm thinking the ocean layers go this way instead of that way.
Step 3, the layers all go in here, carefully. Now, each colored salt solution represents 1 layer of the ocean. We'll start at the bottom with the darkest water, the trenches.
Carter, I'm always willing to be in the trenches with you.
Thanks, Zeke.
Whew, it's so dark down in the trenches.
Yep. 0 sunlight reaches the trenches. And the deeper that you go in the ocean, the higher the density of the water. There's so much we don't know about the deepest parts of the ocean, but we do know that sea cucumbers and starfish live there. All right, now we're going to pour in the rest of the layers. Because each color is a different density, they should layer rather than mixing. But it's a little tricky, so we're using this tube and some paper to help. There. All right, next layer, the abyss.
I feel like we're doing very delicate sea surgery. Peering into the depths of the abyss.
This zone is where many types of squid and shrimp live.
It all kind of looks the same.
You know what we're missing? Light.
Ah.
There it is.
Oh,
You see?
yeah.
All right, okay. Now for the next layer, the midnight zone. In the midnight zone, we find anglerfish and the ever-popular blobfish. That looks so cool.
That's great. Okay, next.
The twilight zone. We get a little more light reaching down here. Here you go.
The Twilight Zone, home of jellyfish and octopuses, octopi, octopodes.
All right. And finally, the sunlight zone, our lightest solution both in color and density.
You ready?
Yep. Sunlight.
Almost done.
Yep. In the sunlight zone, we find sea turtles, clownfish, flying fish, manatees, dolphins, tuna fish, blue whales, and so much more.
Oh, dude, this is awesome sauce. It's so cool how the layers stay separate.
Yeah, the ocean covers almost 3/4 of the Earth's surface, and we only know details of about 1/3 of the ocean's animals.
And every year, almost 2,000 ocean animals are discovered.
The deeper we go, the more there is to learn.
Speaking of, it's time for...
The story before the story.
Today, we're in the 3rd book of the New Testament, Luke. God made a perfect world, but people turned away from God.
From the very beginning, God had a plan to restore us to relationship.
Even when the people turned away, over and over again, God remained faithful.
At the perfect time, God sent a rescuer in the form of a baby, God's very own son, Jesus.
Even though he was God's son, Jesus was born to an ordinary family in an ordinary town.
Which is where our story starts.
Take it away.
Hey everyone, I'm Brian. Jesus grew up in an everyday family in a small town. His family had traditions just like families today do special things each year to celebrate holidays. Every year, Jesus and his family would travel to Jerusalem to celebrate the Passover. During Passover, the Jewish people remembered how God delivered them from enslavement in Egypt. When Jesus was 12 years old, he journeyed to Jerusalem with his family, as usual. They probably spent the week with family and friends and very likely shared a special Passover meal together. At the end of the week, Jesus' family started the long trip home. But after the first day of travel, they discovered something. Jesus was nowhere to be found.
You told him when we were leaving, right?
Of course I did. Everybody knew.
Mary and Joseph had probably assumed Jesus was with cousins or friends somewhere in the group of travelers.
No one has seen him all day.
Did we really leave him behind in Jerusalem?
We have to go back, right now.
Mary and Joseph raced the whole way back to Jerusalem. By this time, 12-year-old Jesus had been without his parents for several days.
Any news?
Nothing. None of our family or friends have seen him anywhere.
He's got to be somewhere.
We haven't looked there.
The temple?
At last, Mary and Joseph climbed up to the temple, and sure enough,
Jesus, my son!
Jesus, have you been here all this time?
This young man has been asking us questions.
Pretty impressive ideas, too.
We're frankly amazed by what he understands.
Jesus, we've been looking everywhere.
Why didn't you tell us where you were going?
Why were you looking for me? Didn't you know I had to be in my Father's house?
It's time to go home now.
Come back anytime.
Jesus returned home to Nazareth with his parents and continued to obey them. As he grew up, he became wiser and stronger and more pleasing to God and to people. The end.
That's crazy. Jesus was without his parents for days in a big city.
What did he eat? Where did he sleep?
Well, Luke does not record that part of the story.
So
What's our part in the story?
Jesus is God's own son, and he looked for and grew in wisdom. Now, if Jesus did that, then it's definitely important for us to look for wisdom too.
Wisdom is finding out what you should do and doing it.
Okay, I know how to look for stuff, like my shoes.
But how do we look for wisdom?
Oh, well, you can think of wisdom like a buried treasure that you really have to dig for. Wisdom isn't just being smart or knowing things. Wisdom is knowing what to do with what you learn.
Yeah, like I can know that eating veggies will help me stay healthy, but that doesn't matter if I keep scarfing down junk food.
You gotta actually eat those carrots and hummus.
Great example. You can also gain wisdom from your mistakes.
I put off studying for a test last week. Then I had to stay up super late to study, and I was so tired I didn't do great on the test anyway.
So wisdom for you will be starting to study ahead of time for the next test.
For reals.
You can learn wisdom from other people too, both from wise choices that they've made and also from the times that they've failed. It could be your parents, a favorite aunt or uncle, or a small group leader.
I like hanging out with my grandpa. He's also got amazing stuff to say. Back in my day.
Well, most importantly, we can ask God for wisdom. In the book of James, we read, "If any of you needs wisdom, you should ask God for it. He will give it to you."
So we gain wisdom by asking first.
So we can know what to do.
And then do it.
I think you got it, wise guys. See you next time.
So, here's the thing. Wisdom is worth searching for.
Speaking of searches, you think there might be any treasure buried at the bottom of this ocean?
As a matter of fact, there is.
Are you joking? For reals?
Yeah, I buried our lunch money in quarters.
Oh, we get to dig for buried treasure.
Thanks for joining us in the Story Lab.
See you next time. Okay, should we use the syringe?
Or maybe the tiniest shovel.
Why not both?
All right, let's do it.
I've always been really fascinated with this story. Jesus was a kid. He disobeyed his parents and he went to the temple. He went without telling them, and he went there to listen to the rabbis and to listen to God's teachings. It was really important to him. He knew that he had to find and seek out wisdom. And that's our bottom line today. Wisdom is worth searching for. It's worth us finding different areas in our lives, asking questions, surrounding ourselves with people who seem to have wisdom. It's important. Jesus did it as a kid. His parents didn't really understand, but he knew he had to search for wisdom. Even as a kid, he understood that God's words were really important and that he had to study them. Friends, we can do the same thing. We can open our Bible and see what God says. Through all of the different stories in the Bible and the 66 different books in the Bible, it helps us understand what God's character is like, and therefore helps us understand how to be wise in our own lives. It's not always easy, but God gives us the Bible, and he also gives us people in our lives to help us understand wisdom. Well, I love learning about this, and I can't wait to learn with you next week. Bye, friends.